What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Rezolve AI. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what the data points are signaling, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Rezolve had a absolutely kick-ass day, went up 15.76%, 314 the low, 374 the high, and a lot of volume. So 30.3 million shares being traded, 10.5 is the average. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So you can kind of see on average, it's around 2 or 3 transactions. Today, it doubled that, and 90% of them were buys, with the exception of one, which was 170,000, and that was a sell. Aside from that, everything looked a-okay. There wasn't any news from Rezolve, so the last news that did come out was this. And that was the 21st, saying that they're just going to be participating in Citi's 2025 Global TMT Conference, and that's going to be slated for September the 3rd. That does coincide conveniently with their earnings. So I've covered Rezolve on and off, and I guess given their structure, I was under the impression that they had to do semi-annual reporting. So meaning we wouldn't actually be seeing a new earnings up until later part of the year. But interestingly enough, you do see a lot of individuals really bringing up saying that they are due for earnings September the 3rd, again coinciding with this. Even investing.com does signal September the 2nd. So once again, potentially that could be a very good catalyst. Forecast right now, 6.75 million. Previous one, last report was 1 million. So definitely massive growth. One big thing that really drove Rezolve higher today, though, in my opinion, of course, given the lack of news and SEC filings, was linked to Nvidia's earnings. Although Wall Street was very critical on it, ultimately, it did signal that AI is booming. So kind of giving a nice FU to a lot of the individuals that assume that AI is a bubble, but still it shows that AI, there's a lot more room for it to go higher. And that is Rezolve's fundamental business. So at the end of the day, even coming from a multiple standpoint, so looking at the PS ratio, it is at a crazy deal in comparison to its peers. So I think this is what really caused a lot of institutions to really start to look at Rezolve. Interesting point though, shorts did return 102,000 shares. 8.5% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 10.06 million shares overall being shorted. Shorts have actually doubled, potentially even tripled down since May. So short interest in May was 1%. At the peak, it was around 9.4%, and that was as of July the 23rd. So shorts have really been playing around. And despite them doubling and tripling down, they haven't really done that much to the stock price, in all fairness, because you can kind of see it's been slowly and surely going higher. And like I mentioned, coming from a discount standpoint, it stands out. And so I think right now, big money is looking and scouring the market for value plays somewhat like Rezolve that are just at a crazy discount. So I think this is why also institutions really were looking at Rezolve. These are all the transactions that did occur on the dark pool above $100,000. So it goes to show that hedge funds are paying attention to it. Even popping over here, you do see based on the flow that a lot of algos were really buying in, and you can kind of see that based on this. Just on a side note, today you can kind of see the turnover, so that does factor in the overall kind of authorized shares, was 26.36%. So 26% of the float was traded today, and ultimately the turnover was $106 million. That is crazy stuff. On average, you're looking at like 16 to 20. So not only was the volume significantly higher, you had big money making massive block orders. So yeah, definitely some things might be getting in. I don't know, once again, if that is accurate, whether we are actually going to be seeing earnings next week. Potentially that could be a very good catalyst in among itself, because similar to SoundHound, they had phenomenal earnings. So matching with Nvidia's earnings as well, showing the AI is booming. So if so, then yeah, that would be a massive catalyst for Rezolve. They haven't announced anything on a side note on the date of their earnings, so just keep that in mind. But moving over to some additional data points, looking at options, 791,000 in calls, 90,000 in puts, 44% of all the options being done today were bullish in nature. So despite it going up 15+%, you still see a lot of optimism. But as far as how high, bulls are feeling that roughly $5 is where it might be at by the week ending September the 19th. So that would be pretty good if you ask me. The bears are anticipating for it to be sub 350. There's not really much activity coming from the bears in all fairness, but this is one thing actually I even mentioned in one of my previous videos. I've actually even posted Rezolve as a buy signal on my Patreon. So if you're looking for some solid buy signals, that's on stocks, options, crypto, definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look, because in June, I do believe, I did signal this as a buy when it was at roughly about $2.10. And I put a base case for 360 and then ultimately a long term for 7. So I do feel realistically there's a hell of a lot more upside with this company, and I think a lot of that has to do with management. I know some people don't really like management, but I like their ambitious style, and yes, they do tend to make good successful companies and kind of sell them off. But still, you're looking for that boost higher, right? So whether they sell or they split it up or whatever they do down the line, that's a problem to deal with. But from now until the expansion, that's how we can make some serious money as investors, in my opinion. I could be wrong. You guys do your own due diligence and all the other fun jazz. But right now with it at 360, if you're wanting to trade it, it is trading between this R2 and this R1. I'm looking at the one-day chart as well. So it's very strong support and resistance points. So 372 is going to be that key point to really watch for. Did kind of bounce off of that as far as the high today, so we know that's a strong resistance, so just keep that in mind. 344 is going to be a strong support that you'll really want to watch for that to hold into the next couple trading days. And then 418, if it is for whatever reason able to get above 418 at least in the short term, then you can anticipate most likely a $6 kind of target, at least in the short term. There hasn't been all that much in analyst ratings. Last one did come out 27 days ago, initiated coverage, 850 target, and this is kind of the time frame as when I last did my Rezolve video. So my apologies on the lack of videos. It's just not really much data and news to really talk on, in all fairness. But if they do have the earnings, then anticipate another video. So I'll kind of give you a quick summary of how things played out and all the other fun jazz. But one thing I do want to bring up, quarter over quarter though, you did see institutions increase their position at 97.88%. Strategic entities also did increase, as well as other, aka retail. And I'm sure some of you might be wondering, well, how does that make sense? How can all of them increase? And that is essentially, unfortunately, dilution. But Rezolve's been open about that, and so yeah, it is what it is. Nothing really crazy, especially with their recent group buy kind of deal. We knew that there was dilution happening behind the scenes, so it is what it is. But aside from all that fun stuff though, on the actual chart itself, so this is where you see on a technical standpoint a breakout occurring. So on here, I do have the 10, so signaling more of a trend kind of point, 100, 200, and also the 50-day moving averages. So a lot of the popular ones. So as of today, it did completely break through and stayed completely above that 10-day moving average. So at the end of the day, that does signal that it wants to see higher highs, and it did break above this key point as well that we did bounce off of on July the 23rd. Aside from that, it's already above all the key moving averages. Stochastic RSI going into today, it was very oversold, so that obviously did help in it really pushing higher today at the ultimately. So that's again another good sign that this stock is ready to move higher. And so yeah, let me know your general thoughts. Like I said, all I'm doing is interpreting the data. For those of you that have actually watched my Rezolve videos, you would know roughly around this $1 range, I said, hey, you know what, this might be a good buy, hint hint, wink wink, like, and stuff like that. So yeah, if you listened at that stage, you'd be up a pretty good sum. But still, in all fairness, even with it at 360 right now, I still do feel like there's a lot more upside on the table. So let me know your thoughts on Rezolve. What do you think the next big catalyst is? Do you think that their earnings is coming out next week? Like I said, I don't think so. It's because they do semi-annual reporting, but you never know, right? Companies are free to do whatever the hell they want in reality. So let me know your thoughts on all that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And actually going back here for a second, one thing I do want to share with you though that has some kick-ass opportunities for retail is on Moomoo. They actually do have a algo strategy that you can actually do. Normally, algorithmic trading is just simply for like institutions and whatever else. This does allow retail investors to use this massive tool to make some money. So I have some pre-made templates up here. I'll be adding more, and I'll be trying to do a dedicated video on a side note just about this. But I really recommend a lot of people to sign up for Moomoo and take advantage of this, because this is going to be the next big thing for brokers, and Moomoo was one of the first ones to do it. And to make things a little bit more better or more incentivizing, you actually do get a pretty good return on investment by opening up an account, throwing $100 at it. So just $100, they give you $50 back. So a pretty good return just based on that. And then that way you can have access to the algo tool and be the part of the next gen of investors. So let me know your viewpoint. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And like I also mentioned earlier about my Patreon, if you're looking for some solid buy signals, pop over there as well. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.